Technology rarely changes the world the way we expect. Big announcements grab attention, demos go viral, buzzwords trend for a few weeks. But the changes that actually reshape industries tend to happen quickly, embedded into systems, workflows, and decisions until one day the old feels impossible to return to. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space, and I'm your host, Priya Diyalani. Now, as we are in 2006, the next wave of technology isn't about more tools, it's about a more autonomy, deeper integration, and less visible friction. And like every year, major tech and culture outlets and research and advisory firms have started sketching out what the year may look like. The theme that emerges is less about breakthroughs and more about long promised technologies becoming ordinary. The result is a year that may be defined less by surprise than by visible changes in everyday routines. Let's welcome Rajesh Subramaniam, CEO of embedUR Systems, to engage us about the entire tech revolution we have witnessed and how does the future look like. Hi Rajesh, how are you doing?
I'm good, Priya. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for taking the time talking to me.
Likewise, Rajesh, it's a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. And of course, I think today our listeners would probably get a different perspective towards the technological evolution and revolution we have all witnessed. And, we would like to know your insights about what does the future look like according to you. But before getting into our core discussion, let's set the foundation by letting our listeners understand more about embedUR systems and as well as your role towards the company.
Perfect. Of course, born and raised in India, I moved to the United States and worked in the industry in embedded digital signal processing, embedded software development for 10 years. And then in 2004, after having worked in the Silicon Valley for 10 years, I started embedUR Systems. And the focus when I started back in 2004 was to concentrate on embedded software and also eventually connectivity software for the edge. And in the last 20 years, we've partnered with global technology leaders to build software that runs inside connected devices, starting from networking to IoT systems and a lot of different next generation access platforms. And more specifically, in the last 3 to 4 years, we've taken a leadership role in the World Edge AI Foundation, and we've launched an Edge AI platform called Model Nova, which helps with physical AI, accelerates development and deployment of these AI models directly on MCUs and NPUs that run on edge processors. My role eventually in these last 21, 22 years of having started the company has evolved. Initially, I was deeply technical, architecting systems and solving challenges for our customers along with our team. And slowly it has evolved into now I'm more focused on what is it that we can provide as a long-term vision for our customers and identifying technology shifts for us within the company, and also building strategic partnerships with our customers and ensuring we grow sustainably and very organically and with a purpose, because we are not just building software, we are building a long-term capability and trust model with our customers. That is where we are today.
That's really insightful, Rajesh, and thank you for giving that overview. And I'm sure our audience have got a strong understanding about what your organization does and also the larger vision driving it forward. I think this context really helps set the stage for our deeper conversations today. So, just over 20 years ago, the dot-com bubble burst, causing the stocks of many tech firms to tumble. Some companies, like Amazon, quickly recovered their value, but many others were kind of left in ruins. In the 2 decades since this crash, technology has advanced in many ways. Many more people are online today than they were at the start of the millennium. And looking at a broadband access, in 2002, just half of Americans had broadband access at home. Now, today, that number sits at more than 90%. So, when you look back 20 years, what technology shift do you think truly changed how humans live and, not just how businesses operate?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, right? Because if you rewind the clock, shifts happen almost every 25 years, right? And let me even go back 50 years. So 1975 to 2000 laid the context for compute, processors, and being able to provide a platform for compute. That's what happened from 1975 to 2000. The ability to have had that launch, the electronic revolution, the industrialization, the rapid advancement of technology, and chips like Intel processors and many others laid the foundation. So now in 2000, we had all that compute. And from 2000 to 2025, the 25 years has seen a seismic, or whatever you call it, shift in terms of being able to first underpin the infrastructure. When you think about the infrastructure, the internet happened and the internet became that infrastructure for communication. Today, we all use a smartphone. The smartphone exists because of that infrastructure that was laid out. We never think, oh, there is Wi-Fi connecting this or cellular connecting this. As a result, I can watch my Netflix Prime. If Wi-Fi goes down, cellular goes down, everything goes down. So if you think of it, that infrastructure accelerate technology. And that changed the game on us and created the smartphone. And with the launch of the iPhone, suddenly all of us we're always connected and or always location aware. We are connected personally. We are aware of context. It now combined compute where people start sending emails on your iPhone. It also helped you communicate with others. Personal communication improved. It also collapsed the camera. It collapsed music. Everything came in one. And as a result, all of this created a big impact where it changed how we think, how we interact, and even how we consume information and how we define presence. These days, I see so many kids in college, out of college, they don't even sit in front of the smartphone streams their applications. We take meetings on our smartphone. We communicate with everybody else, our peers with a smartphone. And again, infrastructure, compute led to the collapsing of all of this into one object that profoundly changed the way we live our life today. It was just not a technology shift, but it was a fundamental behavioral shift that it caused. That would be my take on the whole thing.
Definitely, Rajesh. And I think, your response highlights something we often overlook when we talk about technology. We tend to measure innovation through productivity, revenue, or business transformation. But the real impact of technology shows up in how human behavior changes over time. And and what's fascinating is that many of these shifts didn't feel revolutionary when they first appeared. They felt incremental, but collectively, they have rewired expectations around speed or access and even personalization today. So
Yeah.
I think people don't just use technology, I think we all are living through it at the current moment.
Exactly. And see, and some of these applications, right? If you think about all the applications,
Mhm.
they will not exist if connectivity didn't exist. That is why I say connectivity was the biggest infrastructure gift that we got that we take for granted.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And I think one of the parts of connectivity that I want to discuss in my next question is about social media. I think the ability to instantly contact someone on the opposite end of the globe at any time with just a use of device that fits in your pocket is, I think it's one of humanity's greatest achievements. And of course, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and they've kind of woven into the fabric of modern society. And with over, 70% of the world's population connected to the internet, it is clear that the world is more connected than ever at any other point in history. But,
Exactly.
and of course, there is no denying the invaluable importance of these modern communication methods. But
Mhm.
again, there comes an important question. Are we like too really connected? Of course, social media promised connection, but did it deliver or did it change us in some unintended ways? What are your thoughts on it, Rajesh?
Absolutely, right? Social media is a bane and a boon, right? If you think about it, anybody can post anything, people can interact quickly. I can become an influencer. It created professions that we didn't even think would exist, right? And as a result, we become so attached to it. And I see people scrolling on Instagram for hours together, people looking at Facebook hours together. The problem is a lot of the content there is no oversight. So it can also, the reason I said it's a bane and a boon is in one way it's entertaining, in another way, it can set false narratives very quickly. And if not clearly authenticated, or if there's no clear oversight, then it can spread a sense of false information. Especially my dad, 80, he's like 85 years old, 86 years old. He uses WhatsApp, and he almost got scammed by some message that he thought was coming directly from the finance minister. This is incredible in terms of what people can do to cheat you using the same media that we use for enhancing our work and life and our relationships. So it's delivered very well, but at the same time, it's also scary sometimes, because if the authentication is not there, it can lead, and it continues to do that, right? I mean, continues to spread false propaganda and false information. So we have to somehow rein that in, or as people using them, we should be smart enough and responsible enough to use our intelligence to make sure that what is right and what is wrong by double checking and fact checking, and ensuring that we don't become the person who hits that forward button because somebody sent us a mass viral message.
Absolutely, Rajesh. And this actually makes us pause and rethink what connection even means today. Because when social media first emerged, the promise was pretty simple, bringing people closer or breaking geographical barriers and giving everyone a choice. And in many ways, it succeeded. Absolutely, it succeeded. We know we are now in a position where we can communicate instantly across continents, an idea that was once, kind of like a dream, I would say. But at the same time, the way we interact has also fundamentally changed.
Yes.
Connection has become faster, but also perhaps more fragmented. We are constantly present in each other's lives digitally, but kind of we feel isolated as well. And just like you said, it's scary as well. It also has its own cons because today algorithms kind of shape what we see, how we think, and even what we believe is important because we don't even often realize that, certain things that we are interacting with are algorithm driven. So, yes,
Absolutely.
definitely, I think we need to move forward toward making our digital interaction more healthier, meaningful, and also, I would say, more human again.
Exactly. And Priya, if you think about it, if you're born after 2010 or 11, you are born with a phone in your hand, like this digital
Yeah.
device in your hand, right? And kids these age, I'm talking about 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, especially very important phase
Mhm.
in their lives, they get stuck on their phone. And what the trend that I'm seeing is this leads to social isolation, where kids are just so dependent on their phone. And I'm totally in favor of government saying, hey, you have to have a certain age to
Mhm.
be able to get into social media, which Australia did. And I really commend them for that, because this has led to mass depression, kids not wanting to socially interact with other kids. And it's very scary when I look at it from that perspective, right? And this is the other bane, right? Connectivity. There has to be oversight. And I particularly see this, especially kids born around 2010 and beyond. And they need to be helped in terms of coaching them to go stay away from the phone, stay away from all the social media, till they have their brains develop some level of intelligence to determine what is right and what is wrong, right?
Right, right. Yeah, very, very true. I think that's very important how we are bringing such digital interactions and connections and making sure that, we are communicating and interacting safely. And with that aspect in mind, I think, how the technology landscape is evolving rapidly. Open source software has emerged as a fundamental driver of innovation. The origins of open source software can be traced back to the early days of computing, where the notion of freely sharing software was common among, academic and research institutions. Today, this environment has encouraged experimentation and allowed people to build on each other's discoveries, laying the groundwork for the open source movement that would follow. What, according to you, I mean, what role did open source software play in accelerating the innovation over the last 2 decades?
It's a great question, right? I mean, when I started my career, when I started work, when we were building these internet switches, I was involved in building one of the first Ethernet switch for Bay networks back in Silicon Valley. I'm talking 97, 98. We were using a software called VxWorks. It's a real-time operating system. And, we had to pay a royalty every time we used that software. Now, fast forward within 7 to around 2000, 2003, 2004, and beyond, the shift started towards open source. Platforms like Linux, followed, Android then followed, more recently, TensorFlow followed. What this did was it helped smaller organizations to be able to afford, because it's open source, they didn't have to pay. It reduced friction. It really democratized access for everybody. And as a result, it increased collaboration because I can contribute to open source, I can make it better. It shifted value from owning code to participating in an open source ecosystem. So, and without open source, right, we wouldn't see AI as scaled as it is today. And I credit open source for all that.
Yes, Rajesh, I think I agree with you. And I think open source has, evolved from just being a very collaborative coding movement or a platform into a very foundational driver of modern innovation. And, it has somehow lowered the barrier to experimentation. It's enabling startups and every individual developers to build on top of shared knowledge instead of starting anything from scratch.
Yeah.
Great. When we're talking about AI, I mean, our conversation would be incomplete if we don't talk about artificial intelligence. AI as a technology is, more than 70 years old and has gone through its own ups and downs. The downs have been called AI winters, and there have been few of them until the 21st century, where AI was used in a lot of niche areas. Now, rather than we talk about seasons, it seems more appropriate to talk about AI waves, since they all follow similar pattern of a period where the technology is evolving and then a crescendo of high awareness and expectations, after which it falls back to obscurity. So some waves have left a bigger impact than others, but all focus on different applications of AI eventually. AI is everywhere, but what actually feels different this time compared to previous AI waves, Rajesh?
Yeah, very different, right? So let me go back. There was a reason where I said connectivity, internet, the launch and the dawn of internet was what laid the foundation for many applications to come, right? For example, if there was no internet, there are no killer applications like Amazon, Netflix, whatever you use, commercial, professional trading platform. It all became possible because you were able to rapidly connect, and the infrastructure was provided like connectivity. So today, internet has become like electricity or water, right? Now, fast forward, AI has always been there, right? Even when I went to school, I studied artificial intelligence. But what is different today? Three things feel fundamentally different. Accessibility. When I say accessibility, with generative models, AI is no longer hidden behind APIs or software coding tools, right? It's actually conversational. You can talk to it like a human. It's intuitive as it learns more about you, and it's slowly becoming mainstream. And previous AI waves were very narrow. Maybe they could detect faces and classify images, but today's AI, Claude, you can write code, you can design, you can reason, you can summarize, you can generate reports. Again, you can converse with it and ask for, okay, what is the status of this technology in the world today? And it'll actually give you a meaningful answer. That changes the knowledge and the way we work, right? The third is slowly the deployment of AI. The physical AI wave is not even hit us completely, and that is coming. And what I mean by physical AI is deployment shift towards the edge, which is what embedUR is focused on using Model Nova, on-device intelligence, real-time anomaly detection, autonomous systems self-correcting themselves, and this is going to be a game changer, right? I said 2020 2000 to 2025 was the 25 years that defined the next set of changes. We are at the beginning. We are only watching the trailer for the bigger movie to play out. We are in the launch of 2025 to 20, the next 2050, where it's going to be whatever you watched in Star Wars and Terminator is all going to become reality. And that is what this wave feels like. It's going to increase the productivity. It's going to increase the ability to do things efficiently. It's going to democratize access. It's going to create a huge impact in medicine. It's going to create a huge impact across every vertical that you can imagine. This wave feels less like automation and more like augmentation of human cognition.
Definitely. I think what's really interesting about what you said is that this movement in AI feels less like a technological upgrade and more like a structural shift in, how we work, how we talk, live, and even how we are fostering creativity. In previous AI waves, we saw automation mostly operating in the background, optimizing processes and making more efficiency behind the scenes. But today, I think AI is directly interacting with people. It's co-creating, reasoning, assisting, and in many cases becoming a part of everyday workflows for individuals and not just enterprises. So that changes the relationship humans have with technology entirely.
Yeah. And for example, right, so today there are products in the market that you can buy, Ray-Ban glasses that have edge intelligence in them connected through your phone, and it's only going to get smarter, where you can in real time listen to somebody talk in another language and it translates it for you so you can hear it. So that's in real time as people are speaking. So it actually is going to even remove language barriers across the country and across the world. I mean, things like this is just unbelievable. The glasses you can wear, look at something, look at text. If it's in a different language, it'll actually transcribe it for you with a camera based glasses with an heads up display inside it. So you can actually in real time translate a menu in Hindi to menu in Bengali. This is crazy, the kind of things that are
Very
happening.
true. Yeah, very true. And on the other hand, we have also witnessed that when we discussed about waves, there are times when, it didn't work out as how it should work out. And
Right.
most technological innovations do not fail because they lack potential. I mean, they struggle because the legal and governance frameworks meant to support them arrive too late or not at all. Technology moves fast by design. Law, on the other hand, moves deliberately. The tension in itself is not a flaw but a necessity.
Yeah.
However, when the gap between innovation and regulation becomes too wide, uncertainty has to set in. And in law, uncertainty is rarely neutral. So,
Yeah.
do you think the innovation is moving faster than our ability to govern or ethically understand it?
Absolutely, yes, right? It's a resounding yes. But that's historically very normal because technology always moves faster than regulation. For example, printing press outpaced institutions, the internet outpaced policy, and social media outpaced governance, right? I mean, it was like the technology is always moving so fast, and then we are playing catch up because it's out there. And now we need to say, how can we create normalcy and governance around it? The important thing now is the speed of scale. AI can propagate globally in months, right? It doesn't take decades anymore or years anymore, right? The challenge isn't, I would say, regulation, but it's some sort of ethical literacy. We need more and more people, technologists, who understand the social impact and the societal impact, very important. Policymakers who then understand technical realities, and businesses that have to embed responsibility by design, which is what I was saying. If we as consumers of technology are also responsible in making sure that we take responsibility by design. So governance must become collaborative and not reactive. And it has to be a wider set of people coming together and putting this in place.
Definitely, I think responsibility no longer sits with governments alone. I think we need researchers, even founders, enterprises, everyone contributing to technological progress now plays an important role in shaping our ethical outcomes. And I think in many ways, on the other hand, if we look, I think innovation today is forcing society to rethink, how collaboration between technologists and policymakers and community should actually work. I think the real challenge may not be slowing innovation down, but learning how to evolve our governance and ethical frameworks and public awareness also at a very comparable speed, or at least in a way that keeps trust intact as technology reshapes everyday life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, moving ahead, when we talk about artificial intelligence, I think it has definitely come out a long way since its inception in the 1950s. Over the years, it has evolved from being a topic of scientific research to powering real world applications that we use every day, like facial recognition or even virtual assistants like Siri and Alexa. Now, the biggest promise of AI lies in its ability to provide intelligence as a commodity, offering considerable benefits for businesses and economies through increased productivity and innovation. So, do you believe intelligence will become a commodity in the years coming down?
It has to. Raw intelligence, yes, will definitely become a commodity. But differentiated intelligence, no. This is what I was referring to. Just like the internet, base models will become utilities like electricity or bandwidth, right? These are the base models, conversational models, all the models that we use today. The base ones will become infrastructure and will become commodity. But the competitive advantage will come from four things: domain experience and expertise, proprietary data that each and every business or corporate has, and contextual adaptation of that data and adapting to that context. And then on top of that, physical AI, which I refer to, which is on-device optimization. In the physical AI world, the value won't be in generic models. It'll be in models that understand the device, understand your device, your network, and your environment. So intelligence becomes an infrastructure eventually, and the application that you are trying to run becomes your differentiation.
Definitely, I think the real differentiator may no longer be just mere access to intelligence, but how creatively and responsibly we apply to it. And I think from a societal standpoint, this democratization of intelligence could be incredibly powerful. But it can, I think, also introduce questions around trust and authenticity and dependency on automated thinking. Great. I think eventually, everybody has this question, what will the future hold for humans and AI? And this is an essential question for this moment, in history with the kind of technological evolution we have witnessed. Now, some believe that we are in the midst of an AI bubble that will eventually pop or at least cool off. Those with more drastic views believe everything from the notion that AI giants will hijack our minds and from a utopian new race of human cyborgs to the arrival of an AI driven apocalypse. Now, each of these projections may be born out of genuine curiosity or maybe some sort of fear, but they are usually speculative or exaggerated. And sometimes, they may miss the complete picture. One last question for you, Rajesh. If you could leave listeners with one mindset to navigate the next 20 years of change, what would it be?
Great question. And thanks for asking this question. This is very personal to me as well. 2025 to 2050 is going to be revolutionary, something we've not seen before, right? And we're all inundated by the sudden explosion of AI. But like I said, it's just getting started. The next 20 years will see a lot of advanced devices, things that we can't even think is possible will become possible and will be available. AI will be everywhere. Autonomous systems will continue to rise. Edge intelligence will be huge, and human and machine collaboration will begin and write a new chapter. So for people, and what the way I see it from our business perspective and our customers' perspective, the winners won't be those who predict perfectly. Instead, we'll have to be curious. We have to stay ethical, again, which is very responsible. I'm going to re-emphasize this. It has to be designed, and oversight is our responsibility. We also have to stay long-term oriented rather than looking at it in the short term and saying, is this going to change my job? Is it going to create deficiencies? Is it going to render me unemployed? No, fortunately, it's only going to be helpful for people who can continue to learn and stay curious and build trust constantly and consistently. Technology will change, but as humans, our cognitive ability and the gut feeling, AI can never replace a human's gut feel. I was talking about it yesterday. When you make decisions, there are times where you won't have enough data, but you still have to make a decision. An AI model can never make that decision because it can only make that decision if you give it all the data. So that is why humans still have a fighting chance against any of this. If I had to summarize it in one sentence, we have to build with intelligence, but lead with our wisdom.
Definitely, I think from transforming the world of work to even revolutionizing the way we live, AI has the potential to drive economic growth and innovation. However, the adoption of AI raises important issues as well related to equity and wealth distribution that policymakers and business leaders need to address. It is crucial that we navigate this transformative journey responsibly and ethically to ensure a better future for all. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for taking out the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that looking at the history and dynamics will help us appreciate the value and limitations of AI. It might also point us toward a better understanding of what drives the advance of AI. We need to stay tuned over the next years for a deeper dive into this fascinating history of technology that may fundamentally transform parts of how we live and interact with technology. Thank you so much for your insights, Rajesh. It was lovely chatting with you.
Same here, Priya. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, this is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around how we have witnessed technological evolution, what is the current scenario we are living in, and how do we think the future might look like, and what are certain things probably we need to keep in mind in terms of moving ahead and advancing in a digital era world. Stay tuned for upcoming podcasts, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.